Strez, are you good?
Yeah, man.
Awesome.
Yeah, David, that's a much better setup than at the office, it looks like.
Yeah, man, I was kind of in panic mode there.
It all worked out. Hey, Steve, how you doing, buddy?
Good, man.
Hey, we got an interesting guest today. Somebody who's joining us from Eastern Europe, Poland, to be specific.
Yeah.
I don't know anybody in Poland. Do you?
Nope. First Poland guest on off
First
the
Poland guest.
Yeah.
Now he's not Polish, so let's get that out of the way. And he might confuse you into thinking he's American. He sounds like he's an American, and he spent some time in Europe, in America, but he was born in the UK. So he's got a lot of flavors to talk about here. He's a guy who started trading in I think it was the late 90s. We'll have him lay it out. He got on my radar. Somebody on Twitter, I don't remember who it was specifically, but somebody on Twitter had mentioned David's name to me. They said, "Hey, this guy wrote this book. You got to check it out. You know, you can get it on Amazon." And I was like, "All right, you know, I'm always a sucker for a good trading book." And I found the Kindle version of his book, and man, I couldn't put it down. It was, I mean, I loved it, and it sounded like he and I kind of started around the same time, and we might even know some of the same people. We'll get into that. But he's got some crazy story. You never got that book, did you?
No.
Okay. Well, we'll have him talk about it. It's basically his whole journey, right? From the beginning to some ups, some crazy downs, and some back and forths. And he started a prop firm, which has a great name, which we'll have him tell you about. I'm excited, man. Should we bring him on?
Bring him on. I think, David, you win the best book cover that I've seen. I think we have to start right there. There's a Wu-Tang theme to your blog and your book, is there not?
It is, yeah.
It's great.
It's again, the book is Cash Rules, and every hip hop head and especially Wu-Tang fan will know that's from their I guess their most popular song, Cash rules everything around me, cream. So that was, and then that also ties into, you just mentioned this prop firm I had. The name of this prop firm was actually Cream Capital Group. So
that's great.
It all kind of ties into that.
So Cash Rules, reminiscences of a day trader. So big Wu-Tang fan then?
I am, yeah. Always been a big Wu-Tang fan, and as I kind of write in the book, I was, hip hop, especially my brand of hip hop. It for some reason I kind of equate it to trading in a way. It's like, it's hustling. It's about the cash. It's, So again, I think they kind of, well, at least I like to think they intermingle. So, yeah, I thought that was a good name for the book and a good name for my prop firm, and. I love hip hop and the Wu-Tang Clan.
That's great. I think that makes sense. Get money. There's a lot of them. There's a lot of them.
Exactly. Yeah, it's all about the cash.
So David, you were born in the UK, and you come from a family that there weren't traders, right? You're not you didn't take the typical path to Wall Street. In your book, and we're going to refer to your book a lot. I hope that's okay.
No, of course.
Because I mean, it's great. There's so much to pull from.
Oh, well, again, I appreciate your kind words about it. Again, I'm just, I'm not a writer. That's not my deal. I'm a trader. So, I don't think the writing part was maybe, anything special, but I just want to get the story out there.
No, you did a great job. And one of the things you talked about early on in the book is the influence of your mother. Your mother being someone who is a value player in a lot of ways, right? And she taught you a lot of things that you have taken with you and translated into your trading career. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, like you said, I don't come. My parents weren't into trading or finance or gambling, and it's surprising because my brother is actually a professional trader. He's been a professional trader for over 20 years. So. There's two of us that are both professional traders, and our parents really didn't have any interest in finance. But as I write in the book, she wasn't, my mom wasn't necessarily into trading or finance or, she didn't care about any of that. But I think, me and my brother, we got our trading genes from her because, and I tell the story in the book of, when we were children, we used to go shopping with her. And, it was probably some of the most miserable memories I had. But all she wanted to do is, and it's still, and I'm still this way, is, buy bargains. It was nothing but looking at the sales rack, what's on sale. And it wasn't necessarily, if she needed it or wanted it, it was bagging the bargain. And, when my trading, my brother's trading, we're the same way. We're bottom pickers, again, that's our style. If we don't want to, we're not riding momentum, we're not buying breakouts. It's what's beat up, what's on sale, what's at lows. We're looking to pick that bottom or, short that top, which I don't necessarily recommend. Again, I think gets you in a lot of trouble. There's a reason, those clothes are 50% off. They're ugly or some awful color or some bad style. And same with stocks. There's a reason typically why a stock is getting hammered or is down 50-60%. It's probably bad news or it's bad company. So but I think that's just your genetics. I think that's the way traders are. When I talk to traders, and I say in the book, you're in two categories. You're a bottom picker, or you're kind of like that momentum trader who buys the breakouts. And I'm a bottom picker, always been a bottom picker, and same with my brother. And again, same with my mom, not necessarily trading, but in basically every other aspect of life.
I think being a value investor, the way you're describing it as a bottom picker, like it resonates more with people, right? Buy low, sell high, it just makes sense trying to shop for a bargain, as opposed to momentum, not as much. So it's interesting that you kind of like picked that up and learned that lesson, not in the market, but at stores, I guess, shopping.
Well, I think, the sweetest thing, and this is not the way trading should be. This is an ego thing, is like you pick that bottom, like I bought, and again, you still hear people talk about it. I bought the bottom in 2020 or whatever, it's like, there's nothing sweeter. And, throughout my career, I've lost probably hundreds of thousands of dollars trying to pick the top of Tesla or, trying to, not because it necessarily makes sense. It's just, it's so sweet, and then you can tell, hey, that was me up there. I shorted up there.
Trying to make that hero trade.
Yeah, it's a hero trade. Again, I don't recommend it, but it's something that, it's just an awful habit. And like I said, it's cost me, lots of money over the years.
Do you still find yourself doing it? Like you're sitting
Yeah, of course. I mean, I think we were talking before we got on about this MSTR. Again, I had to short it today. I had to short it because it was gone up. The reason why, because it's gone up so much. It was too high. It was,
Right.
That's why. Most traders, probably a smart trader, would go, no, it's strong. Let me ride that momentum. There's buyers. Instead I'm going, oh wow, let me try and everyone else is wrong and I'm right. And I think it's that kind of. I think the bottom picker, the top picker, it's also kind of contrarian nature because if a stock's going down, if it's at lows, everyone's saying this is a garbage, but I'm saying no, it's there's value here.
This is interesting. And Sean, it's different from the way we trade. I would say we fall more on the momentum breakout side of things. Yeah. So I'm really interested to know, where have you had more big losers? Trying to pick bottoms or, fade tops and momentum stocks like a MicroStrategy?
I'd say fade these tops. Again, like picking the bottoms, for some reason, I'm usually a little more disciplined. Again, I don't think it's a bad strategy, shorting a top or shorting a bottom. I mean, like, as long as you find, if a stock goes down and it has a really nice support level and you can risk a little, on the stock, there's a good chance the stock could bounce. It's a good trade, but you gotta cover when it breaks that level. And for some reason, I'm better at the discipline on covering the losers on picking the bottoms to the tops. The tops, I just, like I said, the worst trades are always, like Tesla, shorting the top of Teslas, this MSTR, these type of trades, because and when they break, there's just so much more kind of force with them because a lot of these stocks are heavily shorted stocks. You get these squeezes when they break highs. So I definitely say shorting these tops has definitely caused me more pain.
Okay, now Straza, we've gotten ahead of ourselves here. This is all great stuff, and that was a great question. But we need to go back.
To
You
the
were
juicy
born,
stuff.
yeah, we gotta get back to the juicy stuff. You were born in the UK, but you moved to the US, Texas specifically, when you were young, 11 years old, I think you said. Tell us about that and why the move to Texas and how that adjustment went for you for a kid from the UK.
Well, the reason was my bottom picking mom. She was a Texan. She was living in England, so we decided to move there. For of course, the land of opportunity. So yeah, I moved there about 11 or 12, and even before I moved, like in England, I knew I had an affinity kind of for like gambling and risk. Like before, when I was like a 10, 11-year-old kid in England, I was sneaking into like there you call them amusement arcades, but they basically slot machines. So basically casinos. I was sneaking in casinos, you know, playing slot machines as a kid. So when I moved to Texas, I mean, I wrote in the book the first kind of I say trading related, thing I got into was baseball cards. So that was kind of my trading baseball cards was a big thing. So that kind of got me, that was my assimilated me, I guess, to American culture and a way to make friends. So when I got there, I started trading baseball cards, and I think that gave me a lot of a lot of skills, let's say, that kind of translate to trading. It's the same thing. It's a market, and that you kind of have strategies, and you try to take advantage of the weak hands. Let's say, these kids who don't know
You trade them with your
anything.
friends. You get the Beckett,
Beckett,
that was
yeah.
priced them
Exactly.
all out. I would sit
Yeah.
there in the morning, just go down the list, see if I got anything good.
I'm old
Yeah. No,
school enough to
again,
remember. I remember old school enough to remember when Beckett was like a black and white
Yes,
magazine before it went color and glossy.
it was like
yeah.
newspaper.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, no, that was, I remember like once a month, that was like, because it came out. And, that's why I write in the book. It's like, it's just a crazy kind of market because, you're trading stocks or whatever. There's continuous quotes. But in the baseball card market, you had like quotes once a month. So, and I mentioned in the book, one of the strategies was like, in the baseball season, a month is a really long time. So, you might have a rookie that all of a sudden gets hot, or some player goes on a huge streak. So I'd quickly buy, before the new Beckett came out and they showed this huge, price increase in the card. I'd quickly try and accumulate
Oh
all of
wow.
this, this card at the dated price from the old Beckett. And
You were
again, I'm sorry.
you were really into it.
I was, and that's why I looked at it. Again, I was in, it wasn't for me, it wasn't like, this hobby. It was like, no, I want to I want to make money off this. I remember going, looking at the price, looking at the price increases of my cards, in 20 years, I'm going to be worth 100 million,
What's
of
what's
course.
the most valuable card you collected over the years?
Back then it was like, I remember King Griffey Jr.
Yeah.
rookie was like a big
Wow.
one. And then I started getting into football cards. This was kind of like Barry Sanders rookie year,
Yeah.
Troy Aikman, those guys. Yeah, it was, this was, yeah, late 80s, early 90s. So,
I had a guy down the street from me. He was older than me. So I was probably 10, 11, 12 at the time. And he was probably 19, 20, 21. And this guy was like a hardcore card collector, and he would like go to flea markets and sell cards. And I mean, he was the real deal. Like it was his business. And I was 11 or 12, and I had a paper route at the time. I said deliver his newspaper. So that's how I knew this guy. He would hire me, quote unquote, hire me to, he would buy cases of baseball cards, and he would hire me to open up all the cards and sort them and put them in order and fill out entire sets and put them in the box so that he could sell them at the flea markets. And he would pay me by giving me like free packs of baseball cards and all this stuff. And I was 11 and 12, and I thought it was the greatest thing ever.
Yeah, what a job. I mean, again, I still, that just the euphoria of opening a pack of baseball cards. I mean, again, I don't know, it's that feeling is still tough to match. I guess it's a little different if it's somebody else's cards, like in
So you and I
that.
collected around the same time. So did you have the same experience in I think it was like the early 90s when all of a sudden, it used to just be Topps, Don Ross, Fleer. Those are the three major card makers. And then all of a sudden in the early 90s, there were like 25, 30 different things. It was just too much and it was oversaturated and it wasn't fun anymore.
Yeah, and then the prices dropped. It was kind of like, it's like still like I keep equating to market. It's like, these companies that keep issuing shares or something, like basically the market got diluted. Yeah, and all these cards lost all their value. Although again, now I see that, they've kind of had a resurgence and
Yeah, like what are the prices like now? What have you guys done with yours? I think mine are all in boxes in my parents' basement, probably.
yeah, mine are in an attic somewhere. Again, I did go through them a few years ago, and I realized like a lot. I think my brother stole half of mine or something. I don't.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think there's a resurgence in the card market. But I think it's more, the before this kind of era, like you said, again, they printed so many cards kind of then. But if you go before, like the late '80s, there's not many cards from these years. So again, I think they really are valuable, especially if they're in mint condition.
Yeah. All right. So that's what you did in your teenage years. How did trading get on your radar? How did that become a thing that was an avenue to you?
Well, that was my teenage. Again, I skipped after baseball cards. It was like sneaking into horse races. Then it was sneaking into casinos. And then it was, I mean, this was all illegal. I was like a 16-year-old driving, by myself, sneaking into, quarter horse races because I like that thrill. And I thought I had the Midas touch when it came to gambling. So I've always kind of had that. And then, when I was in college, it was kind of like when this was late 90s, right around, the first tech bubble. And
Yep.
so we often, all these stocks were going crazy. You started hearing about day traders.
Yeah.
And it was kind of weird. There's like, you see these guys sitting in front of these big CRT monitors. And it was like, oh, wow, these get, and you hear all these stories about these guys making tons of money, which again, for me, it looked like it was, glorified gambling. So I was like, this is what I want to do. So in college, I was looking, I'd go through the newspaper. Of course, I'm that old. You go through the newspaper and I check quotes and, every day I pick a stock and then I check it like the next day or a couple of days later, it'd go up. And I was like, oh man, this is so easy. Of course this was like the height of the tech bubble. And so yeah, I was like, oh, okay, I want to get in finance. I want to be a trader. I want to do this. And so out of college, I kind of went the wrong avenue. I got a job as a stockbroker at a really sketchy stockbroker. And I realized, it wasn't me picking stocks and reading charts and, fundamental analysis, all that. It was, they handed me a big old phone book and was like, call random strangers in this phone book. And of course, that's not what I envisioned. So after a year of that, I was able to get a real job at a real prop firm in Austin, Texas. And that was the start of my journey. That was 2001.
Was that prop firm in Austin? Was that called either Cornerstone Securities or Pro Trader?
It was. Now it kind of morphed into Kirshner trading. But
Steve, me and David have some of the same DNA. This is amazing. So I started trading in 98 at a firm called Cornerstone, which became Pro Trader. And Austin was where the whole thing was headquartered. I never met any of the Austin guys, but I did go to the Dallas office. You guys had an office in Dallas. I spent a week out there hanging out with some of those traders. But yeah, that Austin group that you were a part of, right? Didn't they own like a bunch of offices all around the country?
They did. And then, yeah, it was, wow, you're old school, just like me, man. There's
Yeah.
not too many of us left. Yeah, they did. And it was, like I said, it was just, as you know, it's just a totally different world back then.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It was crazy. And yeah, so this was, that's where I got my start at, I think it went pro trader and then went zone trading and then it went Kirshner trading. It kept kind of switching and switching names and offices and so on. So yeah, I started back there 2001.
And how
Okay.
long were you
Yeah.
there?
I was there for about 5 years, I want to say. And then, I kind of, that's where I learned to trade. I had some success. And then after that, I decided, this was kind of like a really typical prop model where you split the profit, you split the profits with the firm, basically 50-50, although I think I was even lower than that to start with. So after I started making some money, I was like, okay, enough of this. I want to, kind of trade my own money and keep the profits. So I switched to another firm in Austin, which again now is called Great Point. I don't even remember what they were called now, back then. And that's kind of a lot of people did that. You kind of switch back and forth. But in retrospect, it might have been good just to stay at this original firm because there's a bunch of good traders there. It was a good office, good infrastructure, good technology. But yeah, since then I've kind of basically traded remotely prop, and this is kind of the variation of the prop model where you put up your basically a deposit and then you basically keep the vast majority of your profits. And that's kind of what I've done for the last 15 years now.
So, all right, that was in Austin, Texas. That's where you got your start. But you're not in Austin, Texas anymore. And I think there's a lot of great stories between then and now that got you to where you are.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a while. It's been a wild ride. I mean, that was so. Yeah, I mean, I'll give a brief. I'll give the peaks and the valleys. So yeah, it was like I said, 2001 is when I started, and that started really rough. I mean, again, as you know, it was a while back then, and
Yep.
again, there was volatility and it wasn't much structure at these farms. You were just kind of thrown to the wolves. And I managed to lose about 40,000 in, I think, the first couple of months. And I thought, I think that was their bad for letting me do that. But somehow I survived and was able, within a year, turned it around. And like I said, I was able, I was early 20s, mid 20s, making, really good money, dream houses, dream cars, living the life. I thought it was, I thought I was, the king of the world. And then I, would switch to this other firm in Austin. And things went, fairly well through my 20s. Volatility, and my trading's always been, kind of P&L goes with volatility. So we had a few years where the volatility died and it was tougher, but making money every single year. And then I decided this was 2008 or 2007. I'd actually gotten this is my first divorce. And I was like, I want to change. I mean, I'm ready. This is boring sitting here making all this money. I want adventure. I want something bigger. So, I had an English passport. I had that option. So I was like, I'm going to go to London. It's an adventure. I want to, maybe I can get a job at a hedge fund. Maybe I can do something bigger, move up the food chain. So I moved over to London and, traveled, had a great time. And then all of a sudden, 2008 hit, the financial crisis. And my plans of getting a job in a hedge fund, first of all, there wasn't jobs in hedge funds. They were all going bust. And volatility exploded. So trading was amazing. So, all of a sudden it was the greatest trade I ever seen. And I had by far my best year. But I was trading remotely from an apartment in London with like dial-up internet by myself, while my brother and all my buddies in Austin were just killing it. I mean, they're making 7 figures a day while I was making 6 figures a month. Let's say it's tough to complain about it, but that was a mistake, not sticking to the office. Again, I wasn't around traders and have the tech.
Yeah.
So that, I was able to do well. And then after that, it was some really rough times. So as you guys probably know, from like 2008 till basically 2020, the market volatility just kind of died down. If you're a good trader, there was opportunities and I was able to scrape by, but it was a real struggle. And again, I wasn't disciplined. I didn't adapt my strategies. And I was living like a king. I'd remarried. I was living in London, had this big flat, traveling all over the world. It was a recipe for disaster, terrible with money. And so by the
By the way,
time,
that's a recurring theme with a lot of traders. They're great traders, but they're terrible with money. I can
Yeah.
totally
Yeah.
relate to that.
yeah, no, it's two different animals. And again, like I'm just, and I think it just warps your mind with trading. If you're making all this money in one day, it's kind of like, well, why should I save money? Why should I do that? I can make this much money in one day. Or, well, what's the point of me trying to save, $100 when, I just lost $10,000 in one trade? It warps your mind.
There's like a higher materiality threshold when
Exactly.
you're accustomed to making and losing lots of money.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's so saying that I know a lot of traders who are smart, who are disciplined, who do make money and then they put it away and invest it, and not me. So within about 5 years, we were living in London, and I just kind of was draining my savings and not making any money. And all of a sudden, this must have been when I was about 35 years old. Bang! I've been keeping it secret from my wife because I was embarrassed and I thought I was going to make money. So I went to her and I said, by the way, we've got about 2 months of savings in the bank. We need to, and she was Polish. This is why. So I was like, we got to get out of here. London's the most expensive place. Let's get out of here and go to Poland now. We had a baby, packed the baby in a car, drove to Poland, lived in Poland, dead broke, struggling another couple of years. For some reason, I thought starting a prop firm was a good idea because I knew these prop firms were killing it. And I knew that sooner or later we're going to get another 2008 volatility come. And I was like, okay, 2008 comes, not only will I make money, but if I just have one or two traders who are decent at this prop firm, I'll get a huge cut of that. And, it seemed like a great idea. So it was a stupid idea. I used all my savings on this prop firm and started that in Poland. Had about 8 traders at the most. And it was kind of I used all my savings and ran the company, did everything, traded my own account. And I was, every month I had to make money for myself and run the company and provide. It was just the most stressful time. And of course, within a few years, the company just kind of ran into the ground. There were some good traders there, but the market was just so awful. I mean, again, it was really tough. The volatility was dead, and it was just tough for all traders. Even the best traders I know were really struggling. So, bang, the firm went bankrupt. I wasn't making any money. I was literally dead broke. That's when my second wife decided to leave me. When I turned 40 and I was literally dead broke. I didn't have a penny to my name. I didn't have a place to live. I was living in Poland. I didn't have any family here. I didn't speak Polish. I didn't have any friends here. And I didn't have any skills. I couldn't get a job. And, I didn't speak Polish. So I ended up, I was 40 years old. And I ended up moving in when my dad moved to Poland. I moved in living with my dad. I had to get a job as an English teacher here for $10 an hour. So I was doing that, and I had, just a minimal amount in my trading account. And I was going through all this and I was just trying to stay alive trading. But for some reason, like my back game was against the wall and I somehow kept alive. I traded discipline, like stuck to strategies. I made $10 an hour teaching English. Fortunately, Poland's a very affordable place to live. And then, surviving tough, things are tough. And then all of a sudden 2020 comes along. COVID came to my rescue. COVID comes, market goes crazy, volatility explodes, and I have the best couple of years of my trading career, and I'm back. I have some money again, my bank account's restocked, let's say, and my confidence is back, and I have a place to live, and I'm not teaching English anymore. And yeah, and then the last couple of years, haven't been as good, of course, as 2020 and 2021, but I've traded discipline, I've stuck to my strategies, and made enough money to get by.
So David, you're no longer married, but you're still in Poland. What keeps you there?
Yeah.
I have my two daughters are here, so that's what keeps me here.
Okay.
I'm saying it's a great place. I really like it here. The winters are a little harsh, and you might have heard about a war and then right next to us, which is a little worrying. I got my eye on that, but no, Poland's a great place. It's good country, nice people, affordable. So
Do
yeah,
you speak
I'm
any
here.
Polish?
How's the food?
The food is good. I I've lived here 12 years now, and my Polish is absolutely awful. It's a tough language, but I'm also very lazy, and most people speak very good English, so another good reason. But yeah, and I have a place in Spain, so I kind of shuttle between Spain. I get back to Texas quite a bit. I go to London occasionally, and of course, there's traveling in Europe's easy, so I do a fair bit of that. So
All right, so Steve, I've got a quote here from David's book that I want to start a little controversy here because this will be fun.
Do it.
I don't know how much David knows about what we do at All Star Charts, but All Star Charts for you, David, is a research shop that's focused on technical analysis. Now, you have a line in your book. I'm going to read this to you, and let's talk about it. Ready for this, Straza?
Uh-oh. I know
He
where this
says-
is headed.
David says, theoretically, the interpreter is always right in technical analysis since some type of exotic technical indicator or moving average can always be presented to back up an argument.
It's true.
I loved that line.
It's true.
Let's talk about it. David's a technical analysis skeptic.
I when I saw the name of your podcast, I was like, oh man, I figured this might be a topic. And if I do say that in the book. I think I say maybe a couple other, have a couple other digs at technical analysis. And if you read my Twitter, there's plenty of red meat on that. But saying that, if I show you my trading layout, the majority is charts.
Right.
So, again, I'm not, it's kind of hypocritical for me to go, charts. I guess my view on charts is it's a helpful tool to be used in conjunction with other helpful tools. Like I said, I use charts. They're my eyes, they're my eyes. Without charts, I'm blind. And again, they serve a lot of purposes. I guess
Let's be clear. You also don't hold yourself out as a fundamental trader either. You call yourself a tape
worse.
trader.
Yeah. No, fundamentals worse. In my book, I talk more about kind of glitch trading, which is, basically trying to take advantage of inefficiencies and malfunctions and arbitrage, which again doesn't necessarily rely too much on technical analysis. And again, and not all my strategies like that, but again, with my strategies, I would say, when I train traders or work with traders, I say, give me a couple of reasons why you're in this trade. Not only, well, it's, a certain technical pattern, but like, well, it's got a big bid, in the order book, or, it's lag in the S&P or something like that. I just think there's maybe an over-reliance on technical analysis, where people, new traders come in and their whole playbook is just some kind of exotic candlestick pattern. again, I do think there's value in technical analysis and candlestick reading and so on. But again, I think you need to have other things to kind of go off also.
And I think there's good
That's my
technical
stance.
analysis and there's bad technical analysis, right? Like the quote that you read, Sean, that's bad technical analysis. People do that. It's terrible. They're not helping themselves, right? It's hard to make money that way. But those are the guys with 8 indicators on their charts, right? And they'll look at the one that says whatever they want to believe in and go with it. You got to clean all that stuff up. Less is really more. Just look at the price chart.
No, I agree. I mean, with my charts, I have not a single indicator. Sometimes I use VWAP, but again, I just want it clean. I want the charts just to tell me what is the stock. Is it moving? Is there, is it worth me trading? Is there
Yeah.
movement in it? Is it moving and clean? Is the movement clean? Like, is it nice, clean moves? I don't want to sit, if I look at a chart and it's just a bunch of random candlestick wicks, it's like,
Yeah.
okay, there's no edge. And also, support levels, resistance levels. Is it strong? Is it weak? Yes, there's a lot of benefit to.
Well, David, I called you a technical analysis skeptic, and in fairness, I consider myself a tape reading skeptic. And hear me out. And let's talk about this. When I hear people tell me that today they're tape readers, I think to myself, what tape are they looking at? Because the tape that you and I started with, David, back in the late 90s, early 2000s, when you could on NASDAQ, when you could see who the buyers and sellers were, and you could see true size on the bid, you could see that Lehman Brothers is trying to buy 100,000 shares, or you could see Goldman Sachs on the offer with 1 million shares to sell. To me, that was tape reading, right? Today, when you have anonymous exchanges and everyone's hiding their true size and everything's traded by algorithms, and it's happening so much faster than it was in the late 90s. There's so much more volume. How does someone read that tape today versus the tape we were reading 25 years ago?
No, I agree. You're so right. I mean, that's how we were trading. I mean, I remember, I say my layouts for the charts. Back in the day, there was guys who didn't even have a single chart on their layout. It was just reading tape, and it was easy. And then when I go back, I'm like, how are we not making more money? It was like, big buyer comes in and you buy in front of it. And I agree. I will say, when during we're talking equities during the U.S. regular market hours, I feel there's no edge in tape reading. There's there's no edge. It's just a bunch of algos. There's hidden orders. It's a mess. But I do all of my trading pre-market. Which is great for me in this time zone, and I like it because it's slower, and I still think you can tape read because there's not as many algos, and the books, there's not as much noise. Things are slower. I'm not saying that, it's as easy as it was back then. No, it's not. But again, I think there's still some edge
So
in tape reading.
So you're rarely transacting in the regular session.
Yeah, I mean, honestly,
Really?
my P&L for the last 10 years, I think, I actually lose I make 105% of my profits pre-market.
Wow. So how did you get there? Like, when you began trading, you had to be trading regular market hours. Like, how did you?
Yeah. I mean, this is kind of like I said, maybe in the last 10 years, I just noticed because as we're saying, like it used to be easy, you could tape read during the regular hours, but no, now it's gotten so tough. And like I said, I believe, I want a couple of tools. For me, technical analysis alone by itself doesn't give me edge. But if I can combine technical analysis with tape reading, I feel like I have edge, and I can do that pre-market.
Yeah.
So yeah, in certain instances, on certain stocks, in certain situations, there is edge in tape reading. But yeah, I agree. Like most of the time, especially during the market hours, there's not. So yeah, I look for either times or markets where you can still tape read. I mean, like a couple of weeks ago during the elections, I mean, I was on Polymarket in the order books, tape reading. I was like, oh wow, I can read these. I can read these books because I was like, okay, there's a bid here because there wasn't, there's I think it was algos, but it was like, oh wow,
how much volume is in those markets? That's awesome that you were doing that.
Not not much. And this was like right, the day and a couple of days before the election. So
Right.
there
So
was
that's
more, there
should
was
be the
more,
highest volume. Yeah.
yeah, there was a highest volume and there was I'd say there was enough, to trade now, but when I look recently, there's kind of after the election, there's not really any big markets, let's say, on poly market anymore. It's
No, I know.
everything's kind of settled. But I was, because I had a couple other traders who were, doing some stuff on poly market, and I was like, okay, great, let me look at this. So I look at that, and again, sometimes I get crypto order books to see if I can see anything, or, just, anything. It's like if you got big bids and big offers, it's like market making. I just jump in front of the big bid, or jump in front of big offers. So tape reading, yes, has gotten tougher. The algos, they'll eat you up pretty much. I think.
Well, Steve, what I think is interesting here is David has found a unique niche for himself, and that is trading. That the aftermarket, the pre-market in this case of the U.S. But he has a unique edge because of his time zone, right? He doesn't have to wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning to trade the pre-market, which is hard for anybody to do. He's working for him normal daylight hours in Poland, which is our pre-market. That's a very unique edge in a way that you've created for yourself.
It is, and I think it's like it's me and maybe a bunch of tired or drunk U.S. traders, and and some European guys and Asian guys kind of going at it. And yeah, I mean, I said my day starts at 10 a.m. is kind of when the servers go on.
Mhm.
So it's basically 4.5 hours of pre-market trading. And there's different stages, like 10 a.m. or 4, which was 4 a.m. Eastern time. That's when it first goes on. There's not much going on. There's a few stocks moving, and then as you get closer to the U.S. Open, of course, more action comes in, and then you have different, like at 8 a.m. New York time. I know that's when like the servers for a lot of brokers go on, like the Robin Hoods and that. So all of a sudden you have a surge in volume, kind of when those accounts go live.
Yeah.
So it's a little different environment. So I mean, like a lot of times, I like recently, like this DJT, this Donald Trump stock, has been going parabolic, and I noticed as soon as the servers for all these online brokers go on, it goes up. Everyone's jumping in and buying it. So I just buy right before all these guys can trade, and then just scalp out. So it's a weird time to trade, but I like it, and it's a totally different animal than the regular market. And for technical guys, it's probably a lot tougher because you don't have you don't have many charts, and you don't have that much activity. So the charts are,
Yeah. So
not pretty.
2 questions about this. What do you do? How do you spend your time during regular market hours? And you mentioned off air before we came on the show, you're going to be up trading the Nvidia earnings. How often are you participating in the post market? Like what time is that in Poland when Nvidia is reporting earnings?
It'll be 10 p.m. when the market closes. So yeah, good question. What do I do during the regular? So it's about 3:30. It's about 3:30, 4 p.m. when the market opens. So it's kind of already evening time here. Yeah, I try and keep myself busy because if I'm not and I'm in front of a screen, I'll trade. You know how it is. Like I'm the most undisciplined guy still after 24 years. So I try and tie my hands or get away from the screens. And yeah, occasionally, I don't usually trade after hours, but again, it is a little different than pre-market. But yeah, this is a big event with the Nvidia earnings. So yeah, when the market's volatile, I'll trade from 10 a.m. my time till like midnight or 1 a.m. The after hours thing. So yeah, but when it's quiet,
That's got to play havoc on your social life.
yeah, and just my mental state of mind, just my
So
mental well-being.
So just as a programming note, we're taping this on November 20th, and we're talking about the NVIDIA earnings report that's coming up this afternoon with David.
That's right. So David, you're twice divorced. You got two kids, two girls. You're trading sometimes all day in Poland. I mean, are you getting involved in the dating scene out there? What's that like? Tell me what that's all about in Poland for a guy
I
like
mean,
you.
Poland's a good place to get involved in the dating scene. Again, I say the most beautiful girls in the world, but I have my own most beautiful girl in the world now. So yeah, I'm in a relationship.
Oh, you are
But
okay.
yeah, again, I will say, when you talk about the twice divorce, that's and I put a lot of that on trading. And again, to kind of go on that veer is, and as you know in the book, I've talked about the good times, but yeah, there's been plenty of dark times and really bad times, and trading does have a big effect on relationships, on parenting, just on everything. And even now, like we're saying, if I'm trading, you know all night, or if I'm trading all morning, especially at my age, that's that drives me crazy too. So that's something I wanted to talk about, in the book, is just, for the traders out there, be careful. Know that it can be a very, toxic thing, especially if you can't, even if you do handle it, well. If you don't handle it well, it can be extremely toxic and extremely dangerous. So,
What are some
uh,
things you do to when you catch yourself sliding down that slope? How do you get out of that spiral? Do you work out? Do you have any other hobbies outside
yeah.
of trading?
Okay, well, of course, exercise is a big thing. Exercise, unfortunately, during the past, you use it's, beer, or, even drugs, or, that was kind of a crutch. And again, I'm not saying that's, it's still not, a beer after a long day of trading, all it still tastes good. But yeah, there's better ways to do it. And there's, whether it's sports or working out, or, having a hobby. Breaks are a big thing, especially at, my age. I need time away from trading, whether it's vacations or just, taking a day off trading, and just kind of regimenting it. Like I said, again, for most of the time, I work, one day, I trade for an hour or so a day. So, I work, basically the hour before the market opens, that pre-market. Now things are a little busier. I'm trading more, but that also helps me handle it. Because now, yeah, if I'm trading, 10 hours straight, I'm a zombie. I can't sleep. I just want to eat terrible. I want to, have too many beers. It's not a good thing. So, yeah, you have to manage it. And again, I think big thing is, especially, I think the older you get, is, plenty of time away from the screen, and, detach yourself. And that it's definitely tough to do. I've been doing it 24 years. Like I was saying, if I'm in front of the screens, I want to be trading. I want to be active.
So you've just gone through so many ups and downs of your career. Trading's not easy, is the big takeaway. Maybe even contributed to divorces, right? I love this line from your blog, though. Despite the bumps and bruises, I've never fallen out of love with trading. I still get that buzz as I await the opening of the markets and welcome the pressure that comes with my pay being based on my performance. What is it? Like, what is it, do you think, that makes you love trading so much? What keeps you passionate about it?
No, I mean, like I said, it is. It's kind of a battle. It's that performance. Every day is different. It's you're just, like I said, you
Balance.
eat what you kill. It's, once you get used to it, it's exciting. Every day, especially now when the market's active. Like, I go to bed like, oh, tomorrow, I can't wait to wake up and start trading. What's going on? I'm checking before I go to bed. What was moving after hours? What had earnings? Like, there's always something new. There's always something changing, and yeah, it's just that like, I don't know, the challenge, the performance. It's
I like how you said earlier on in our chat, that really what attracted you to trading at first was it reminded you of gambling. Like, do you still, after 23 years, do you still think about it in that same light?
Yeah, but that's a wrong approach. Again, I still do, I think today I say my trading, it was more gambling than trading. Trading is you have a strategy with edge and then you execute the strategy. If you don't have that, it's gambling. And again, if I catch them, like we talked about this, trade earlier, I was just shorting the stock because it was really strong and I wanted it to go down. It's like that's gambling. There's no edge there. There's no strategy. There's no good execution. But yeah, I mean, and that's the thing. It is tough because I still get that thrill. There's still, I still get, my juices are flowing when I'm trading, and it's a similar buzz you get to gambling. But
Stimulating.
but yeah, but we get, and but also, I mean, you can say in gambling, some gamblers, and there are strategies where you can have an edge. So I wouldn't say all gambling is gambling. I'm saying gambling is doing whether it's gambling or trading when you don't have an edge. And that's a dangerous thing. And then it's easy to get hooked on that rush. And it gets you in that revenge trading. It's tough to go around. So while, again, you do see a crossover from guys who, gamble or play poker or play blackjack and they get into trading. It's a natural thing. There's a difference between gambling and trading, and you have to separate it. And you can't be in trading for the buzz, for the high. You have to be in it because you have a plan, you have a strategy, and you're going to execute. And that's how you get your buzz and your high from executing your trading plan efficiently.
It's refreshing hearing you talk so open and honestly about maybe breaking your rules sometimes, this mental battle, right, and trying to follow your process. This is a theme, Sean, right? So we've been doing these interviews for a while now. I'm thinking of Brian Shannon's interview. One of the greatest traders I know. Like he came on and he's like, I'm still breaking all the rules after all these years.
Yeah. David, forgive me for backtracking here for a minute, but there was one thing I wanted to ask you about. We talked about Cream, the prop trading firm that you had started a while back. We talked about a little bit, but the one thing I wanted to ask you, and we just got off topic, was what was the hardest thing for you when you were working, when you had as many as 8 traders working underneath you? I mean, it probably fell upon you to be educating them and to be keeping them motivated and all that. What was that like? And what was the hardest thing about that for you?
Yeah, like I mentioned, I mean, it was a crazy time. I mean, I imagine most prop firms have like millions of dollars in the bank and so on. I mean, I literally had nothing. So, like I said, not only was I, running the firm, training the traders, doing the accounting, doing the marketing, doing everything, but also having to trade and make money each month to, pay rent and pay, keep the firm going. So it was a crazy, crazy time. And, but I did enjoy it. I love it. I always love being in an office. I love being around traders. I'm sorry. I love the camaraderie. And I like coaching traders. Again, I feel like if you set a firm's, rules and beliefs and, mantra and methods, and they follow it, they should make money. And a lot depends on the market. So that was kind of against us, but it was a crazy time, but it was also a really good, I have plenty of fond memories from that time. And a couple of the traders from that firm are at, some really good firms now, still trading, making millions. So some good things came out of things came out of that firm. But
would you ever do it again?
Maybe not that model. When it's your capital and the traders are trading your company capital, I think it can be a little stressful.
Sure.
But yeah, I mean, I like being around traders. I like trading in the office. I like camaraderie. I like the trading business. And I think it's a good business if the market conditions are right and you have some good traders and so on. So yeah, never say never.
Did you play any sports, David?
I did. I was big into football. I played in college, and I still love sports. So like I said, the gambling was one aspect that I think contributed to me to get into trading, but I think the sports also, and then,
Yeah.
I think the common thing we see, and we talk about trading as a performance, the competitiveness. I think that crosses over. So
Yeah.
yeah, and I think that's a natural thing. Although I mean, when I first started, there was a lot of poker players, there's a lot of um, you know, athletes and so on in these prop firms. I think now it's like quants and math guys and nerds. I'm not saying I'm not a nerd, but it's a different kind of a
Totally.
different
And
kind of environment.
and your experience, playing football probably also like that's that office camaraderie that you like too. Like, do you miss it? You're working from home these
I
days?
do. I mean, I miss, again, I think, the greatest thing about being in office is just that camaraderie and I think the competitiveness.
Totally.
I miss being in that office. I think it makes you a better trader because if you see that guy next to you making money, then you're like, okay, I can do it.
Mhm.
Or, he's doing it. I can do the same thing as he and I can make more money. And then if he's making $10,000, I should be making $10,000. So, I that's always pushed me. That can get out of control where, you get in that kind of thing where you make $100,000, but the guy next to you makes 100,001 and you're just devastated, like you're never happy. That's not necessarily a good thing, but
Yeah.
that's the way it is. I mean, like I said, my brother is a professional trader and we're competitive. We all, we want each other to do well, but we compete against each other. And there's nothing wrong with that. But, that's what I miss about the office is that, the competitiveness, the sharing ideas, and yeah, that camaraderie. It used to be, it is, we'll say a locker room. That's kind of a general term, but
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, when we first started trading, they were like a locker room. I remember walking on my first trading floor is like, it was a bunch of young guys in flip-flops and Hawaiian shirts, screaming, yelling, like slamming keyboards, playing, these video games. It was wild. I think things are, a little more civilized, let's say, these days. But
Sure. David, who's the better trader, you or your brother?
Yeah.
I would, of course, I'd say I'm the better trader, but you know what? I I think he's made more money than me, and the P&L, the scoreboard is your P&L. So
Scoreboard
he's
doesn't
made
lie.
more money. I think he's made more money than me. So I'd have to say he's a better trader. I was well, and I think that's what I tell traders. There's no prizes for, being original or being a skilled trader or doing it your own way. And I think that's been my problem a lot of times. Is like I've been stubborn. It's like, no, I want to do it my own way. I do, my brother's always been, he's smarter than me. He's like, okay, this guy's doing this way and making a ton of money. I'm just going to copy him and do it. And he's had a lot of success with that. And he's a good trader. But I'm like, I'll try and do it my own way. I'm too proud, like, and that's cost me. So, yeah, if someone, that's how you're judged as a trader, how much money you make ultimately. You can say, well, I'm the most skilled trader, but how much money you make, that's how we're judged.
Yeah. Well, David, we are coming up on the close of the U.S. Trading day. We don't usually record these during market hours, but you're in Eastern Poland. We had to make an adjustment to our normal schedule. So we should start wrapping it up here. So if we have any trades we need to close up, I might. So maybe I'm talking my own book here.
This is
But
great.
David, this was great to get to know you. And I hope we get a chance to meet in person someday, especially if you're back in the States. It'll be a little easier.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you guys having me on. I love, I love talking trading, and you guys are, obviously
And
have a love,
what
have a love for it.
remind our viewers and listeners the title of your book and where they could find it.
Cash Rules: Reminiscences of a Day Trader, and it's on Amazon, Kindle, and whatever country you're in. And also, I just started a Substack. I'll mention that. It's called
Oh, yeah.
The Cash Rules, and I have a lot of information on that about this kind of style of trading I've done, and some other stuff. So that's where you can find me, and then Twitter at Cream Trader. So a few ways you can catch
Cream
up with me.
Trader. There it is. I love it. All right,
great.
Straz, any parting thoughts there?
No, this was a lot of fun. Really had a pleasure chatting today. Thanks, David.
Thanks for having me.
So that was great. I had a lovely, lovely talk with David just now. Sean, you asked me right as we were bringing him onto the show if I had gotten the book because you recommended the book to me, I don't know, weeks ago. Said it's great. I read it. Let's have this guy on. Okay, I didn't. But after our conversation, I'm definitely getting the book. I think David's great. And really what stood out to me most that I found just super refreshing is just brutally honest about
Yeah.
who he is. Hey, trading is appealing to me, reminding me of gambling. I like the horse races. I like casinos. I break my rules a lot. Like this is trading. And that kind of honesty is so, so important. You have to be honest with yourself. And
No, you're going to love his book. One of the things that really stood out for me was like it took a lot of guts for him to share a lot of the stuff that he shared in the book. Even some of the stuff we didn't even touch on in this conversation. So I have mad respect for that. Like he just kind of put it all out there, and I think for him going through all that and then sharing it was probably therapeutic in a lot of ways. I think he kind of needed to get that stuff off his chest, you know. He probably, and I don't want to speak for him, but I imagine he probably carried with him through a lot of his career like this air of invincibility, and I'm this like big successful trader. Meanwhile, he was actually really struggling behind the scenes and trying to like when he was running his prop firm, right? I mean, he's got stories in the book about how like he was running at a deficit. He had no money in the bank, yet he's still somehow finding a way to pay these guys and keep them active. And those guys probably had no idea how much he was struggling during that time. It's pretty cool.
He's had a roller coaster ride of a career. He's lived all over the world. So we're just really interesting. I can't wait to check out the book. One more thing that kind of stood out was what he mentioned about more or less how trading skews your perception of materiality. And I think it screws us when it comes to personal finances. So I thought that was funny to hear, and that's just a recurring theme.
That's a very interesting thought, Straza, because I can tell you from my own career, early days when I first started trading in the late '90s, early 2000s, during that dot-com bubble, when I was working with other guys, myself in our 20s, we were making boatloads of money. Especially other guys I was working with, they were making 100 grand a week on the regular, like real money. And I remember a time when I got together during this period of my life where I got together with some of my old friends, like kids I grew up with, right? And I'm hanging out with these guys, and I'm just in this world now where I'm talking in these numbers that really don't make sense outside of my office, right? Talking about making $10,000 a day and blah, blah, blah. And my friends like humbled me in a way. They're like, I don't remember exactly what they said, but they were like, what the fuck are you talking about, man? What this money you're talking about? That's not real. Like, you're an idiot. Stop talking to me about your bad day because you only made $500, like shut the fuck up. I would get that stuff. And that pushed me back, and I was like, oh, I needed that. I needed to hear that because it was a weird adjustment it was a weird world I was living in during that time.
It's easy for that to happen. You have to be super mindful. I find myself all the time, we'll probably spend too much money at a dinner or get an extra nice hotel. And it's like, yeah, $100, $200, like not going to change my life. But that's me sitting at my desk thinking about my trading, right? Like you shouldn't take that outside of your trading. It doesn't really make sense.
Right. Like it's funny, right? Like if we lose $100 on a trade, that doesn't seem like a big deal. But if I overpaid $100 on a dinner, my wife's going to be pissed at me.
Right. Right.
Like, what are you doing spending that extra $100? Right? It's like a totally different world.
Yeah. That's awesome. Nailed it.
All right. That was a great interview. Let's do it again soon, huh?
Absolutely.